Alright, well, your image froze, but.
Now. Hi, and welcome to a very special edition of Sipping Tea with Suzanne. I am your fabulous host, Positively Suzanne. And with me in the studio tonight, I have Khrystin King, I should say City Councilor Khrystin King, who is running for mayor. How are you, and welcome to the show?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be back.
Now, wonderful. Well, I'm excited to have Kristen on the show. So, season 4 of Sipping Tea with Suzanne will be starting next week. But I really thought that it was important to bring you guys a brand new episode, and actually, I should say a special episode. So, I will start off with this caveat. Kristen is doing his run for mayor. I have publicly endorsed Khrystin King as the mayor, as someone who's running for mayor, somebody who, I've thrown my support behind and really excited for his win. But I will be conducting the interview tonight as a journalist. I do believe that a journalist has to be impartial and they have to give you the facts. I think one of the things in our community, especially people that look like me, they do not go out to vote because they feel like their vote does not matter. And that's why I thought it was important tonight to have him on the show, to ask him why he's running for mayor and just really understand his platform, because every single vote counts. And it's important that we understand the candidates that we're voting for. And, even if you're going to say, like, what's in it for me, it's okay to ask that question. So I'm hoping to shed some light on this tonight. So, again, a very special episode. The elections right now, early voting is happening. You can do early voting. Go on the internet, you could find out the time. I think it's 9 to 5 at the library. And then the election is 1 week from today. It's next Tuesday, November 4th. I think the polls open till 8 p.m. So go out and vote. Tell every single person to go to your poll. Your mom, your dad, your cousin, your grandpa, Uncle Ray Ray, cousin TT, all of them. All right. Tell them to go to the polls to vote. Khrystin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, I appreciate the opportunity, and it's important to me to make sure that there's no holds barred for questions here. And I'm running for mayor. I ran a couple of years ago. I became the first black vice chairman in the history of the city of Worcester. And I'm running because I want a more accountable Worcester. What we're seeing across the city is folks want a localized government that's accessible and responsible. They want a return on their tax dollars, streets, potholes, sidewalks. I lead by data and research. I call for audits. I called for an audit this past spring for operational audit of how we're doing streets, repairs, sidewalks, potholes, because we see what's going on. I get the phone calls of people saying, hey, my alignment's off. I got to spend $900 for struts, et cetera. And we have to not just take credit for what goes well here in the city of Worcester. As a mayor, I will also be responsive and accountable. So things like audits, auditing overtime budgets, auditing our operations. We can't just throw more money at these things if we're not doing it and prioritizing the right way. And the audit did come back about a month ago. And it showed, for instance, that some of the orders that were put in for repairs, they've been put in 10 years ago and never done. And it's that approach that I bring to city government. I'm not afraid to be accountable, to ask the hard questions, and make sure that all portions of our city are kind of looked after. And part of our job is to keep the city manager accountable. We hire the city manager, and I think it's we have to use measurables. I've been pushing for some metrics for that, and they were voted down last term because of politics, and this year they were voted in. So I was happy to kind of initiate that sort of thing. But yeah, people want a more accountable local government.
Well, absolutely. I think as citizens, I would certainly appreciate transparency and accountability. I think that's important. I think if we look at politics on a whole, overall, it's truly not known for that. So I respect that you say that that is what your platform is and that is what you're going to go after when you're elected mayor. Notice I said what, not if.
Thank you so much.
We're putting that out there in
Gotta
the
put it
universe
in
because
the
I also think that we have an opportunity to connect with a different constituents because not everyone is involved. So I'm going to ask the question that every single person asks me when I'm having conversation with them, the importance of voting. Why should I vote?
Because there's so many things that municipal government impacts that people don't think about. You know, we had an issue over on Eureka Street where the federal government came in and violating constitutional rights of residents here. And we have to make sure that not only does the law prevent us, the city, from participating in ICE operations, but also there's an option that local government can select to be in to have their police individually participate. And I filed the orders that would make it very clear we're not doing that here in the city of Worcester. So those things are important. It's our friends, it's our families, it's our neighbors. You know, in the Supreme Court, the federal government, the Supreme Court had a ruling that it's okay to racially profile during these times based on how you look, your accent, where you work, color of your skin, and there's no due process. So during these times, we have to step up. Another reason to vote, as I mentioned, street sidewalks, public safety, making sure that that people aren't just showing up for ribbon cuttings and keys to the city, but they're also willing to say, hey, someone's rights have been violated. We had a Department of Justice that came in, did a review of the local police department, and they found that people's constitutional rights were being violated. They also found that excessive force is used in ways where it impacts the Black and Latino community differently. And there needs to be more research in that to determine, is that bias or is it simply a course of action based on the demographics? So in addition to that, look at our public schools. We have a lot of challenges with school size. We have kids, actually, their classes being located in hallways because we don't have space. Just so happens those classes are on the east side of the city, not the west side. And for folks that are watching, there's a historical narrative there to all of that. So those are some of the things that's important. Our small businesses. You know, there's always been a battle tax time between residents and businesses. And, you know, I put forward this year a measure that would exempt personal property taxes from our smallest businesses. We would eliminate it for personal property that's less than $10,000. That will impact 4,000 small businesses here in the city, well, close to 4,000. And I also put forward something I think is really important, is a supplier diversity audit. And so what a supplier diversity audit is, that's city contracts. When they go out, we want to audit who are they going to. Are they going to local businesses? Are they going to veteran-owned businesses? Are they going to women-owned businesses? Are they going to minority-owned businesses? Are they going to LGBTQ plus businesses? Well, we have to audit that. That's step number one. Step number two to that process, which was supported by the council unanimously, is also looking at what they call no-bid contracts. So in the city of Worcester, we have a number of departments, probably 20 or more. Each individual department, if they have work to be done and it's less than $10,000, they don't have to put it out to bid for a contract. They can call whoever they like and have that work done to the department's satisfaction. So I want to audit that too. I want to know where they're going. Are they going to these small businesses, the local businesses, to infuse our local economy? And we've never measured it as a city. And I think that's important. And then once that happens, there's some other things that can come out of it. And I think we can use the mayoral seat as more than ceremony, but as actually pushing some things. You know, my opponent, Joe Petty, has been in office for a long time, and he's generated a lot of goodwill. He's helped some people. But, you know, in every city, there comes a time when the chapter changes and the page is turned. And in these times, with what's going on nationally, We need a leadership that's going to stand up and make sure that Worcester gets its fair share.
All right, awesome. Thank you for answering that. I do have a question because you are a Black man, and you know when folks.
Where we going?
Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna sip my tea
Sip
now.
your tea. Sip your tea. Sip your tea.
Heard
All
that
right.
she
And
prefaced it. Yeah, go ahead.
and but I think that's important to
Yes.
mention because representation matters.
Right.
And I think as a Black man, you know, in this very public facing role, there is a lot of backlash and there's a lot of hatred and vitriol that comes with that. And I think there's going to be more coming at you when you become the mayor. How are you planning on dealing with that to ensure that that you know you're good, and then you're able to show up for yourself, your family, and your constituents?
I know you're going to go there, but I'll say this. I appreciate the question deeply. I would say faith, family, and friends, the three F's.
Okay.
I tell people to lean on those in good times and bad times, but faith, family, and friends, you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of dog whistles. There's a lot of, feeding into tropes. The first day I chaired, for the first time, a Black man chairing the city council meeting in the history of Worcester, January of 2024. A group called in, and they used the racial slur, the N-word, as I was on the chair. And then they proceeded to send anti-Semitic things. They called in again. And, that's been coupled with folks, no matter, when you're a Black professional, a Black elected official, and you know your constituency, you know policy, and you stand firm, that's often, you can get categorized as arrogant, cocky, versus being a really good advocate, knowing policy, being able to connect with constituents, and for Black men and women, that's common in the workplace. So those are things that I'm prepared to deal with. I've dealt with it on a professional level. I'm ready to deal with it now. But there are times where it gets difficult. Comments on my hair.
I mean, you're talking to a girl with an afro. Hello,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I understand. We understand, but there was conversations about 2 years ago. You got to get rid of the hair. You're not going to get elected. And there were a whole lot of things that went into that. I've had grown women, grown women, men, women, young people come up to me thanking me. We really appreciate your hair. Young people looking just like me as we go into the Worcester Public Schools, identifying just by looking. And it's extremely important that we represent ourselves in our true authenticity. Even though my hairline's running away from me, I'm still trying to do that. But yeah, it happens. The racism's real. I try not to read the comments. People will send it to you. I got a comment after, I have a very professional looking picture in the most recent Telegram Gazette article. And, someone's saying, hey, I can tell he's going to be dangerous by how he looks to white people. And you have to keep it moving because it's your faith, your family, your friends, and people who understand that you're trying to make a difference. And you can't get pulled off. The most disappointing thing has been, as an elected official, when colleagues feed into that. I lost my temper on the council floor for the first time in 10 years, where I yelled at the mayor to follow the rules, follow the rules, come down to the floor and follow the rules, because there's a rule that you can't speak from the chair if you're going to enter into debate. And it wasn't just that issue. I've watched over the last 10 years different elected officials get treated differently. I've watched people come to the podium, get treated differently, different groups treated differently. And it was, I think all those kind of intersected. But what was most disappointing was as I was expressing myself in that heightened way, the mayor turning and saying that I was intimidating and threatening. We have all sorts of people that lose their mind on the council floor. We've had just this term, councilors swearing, using profanity, slamming things, yelling, screaming, crying. But to have that applied here, I know what it means when other people hear that. And I think we as Black folks in the community know how to stay focused and know how to remember and have the courage of our convictions with whatever domain we're in, whatever space we're in.
Okay, all right.
That comes from family, right? I come from the islands, Bermuda, Jamaica. It comes from family, our church upbringing and values. And the one thing I've always been reminded when things get difficult, it's a tough vote. Why'd you run? Why are you here? And lean on that. And if there's a political consequence, people at least respect that you're trying to do the right thing.
Okay. All right. So I have two questions for that, and thank you for sharing that. Why stay in it when it's such a cost to you? Because I want folks that are out there that are potentially thinking of running, but they see what comes with it. So my question to you is, why stay in the race when it's such a, because I mean, it's not for the money, unless there's something I don't know about. Let me find out. But why stay in it at such the potential high personal emotional cost?
I think the opportunity to make a difference, sincerely trying to make a difference in the city and in people's lives. I'm a master's degree in social work. That's my career and my profession. And I think a lot of it has to do with that. There is a lot of sacrifice. If you look at anyone who's in elected position in the city of Worcester, it's mostly, we have folks that are very well off, folks who are retired. We have retirees running again, real estate agents who have lots of flexibility, and I have a little bit, very few 9-to-5ers, last 10 years has been like 3. So there's a select group, and it's designed to be that way. And then the compensation's not what it should be. It's probably half of what it should be. So people who do run can't pay for childcare. And if you think about, if you have a 9-to-5, your time for municipal government is either on your lunch break, or you're taking personal time, or it's before 8:45 a.m. or after 5 p.m. And what time is that? That's family time. And what I explain to people is that the compensation is there for that loss. It's not necessarily the hours. Like you're lost, I'm missing a first, goal in soccer I missed, right? And again, I think it's sort of a calling as well. Like I never intended to run for municipal government ever. And many years ago, we had the Black Lives Matter movement was beginning, and I went to my first council hearing, and there was no one that looked like me on the floor. Everyone in the gallery was, a very diverse group, people of color, young, old, white, Black, Latino, everything. And there were things being said by elected officials on the floor that were offensive if you were a Black person. And people were yelling down to the gallery. They think it's crazy now. It was just as chaotic then. And Petty was trying to gavel the meeting, and there was no one that looked like me. And I said, you know what? I don't know. And then one of the elected officials who made the offensive remark said to the crowd, if you don't like it, run for council. I went home and picked up the phone, and here we are.
Here we are.
So representative government, it's important, and you have an opportunity to make a difference. The biggest thing is, if you are in your professional life or your personal life, you come to a situation where your voice, and in this instance your vote, can make a difference, we should do so. I've done that with trying to expand affordable housing where it's really affordable. I've done that with transparency, voting to keep things transparent, not cancel city meetings and city government. Make sure that people are heard equally. There's not enough voices like that on the council, and those are values that are important to me. I grew up. The autobiography of Malcolm X was probably the most influential book in my life. I came up. I'm older than you, so I came up with conscious.
A whole lot older.
I am. I came up with conscious rap music at the time, so it was KRS-One, Poor Righteous Teacher, all these folks, which was about Black empowerment and uplifting your community and everyone in the larger community, and all those things kind of intersect for me. These are things that are very much part of my family and who I am.
All right, awesome. No, thank you for answering that. And, I'm going to ask you a question because I think, I did preface the show by saying it, full transparency. Um, you talk about your reason for running, you talk about your values, and, you talk about the challenges that you face. But what about the challenges that you face from your own community?
Mm. Is this good tea? Well,
What does that feel like? And
that's a great question. Thank you for that question.
he'll never be on the show again, FYI.
No, I will. I love it.
Okay.
It's real. It's present at times. When I was elected as the first black man elected since 1936 in 2016. Now, if you bear with me and go back, in 1926, if you voted, let's say you were 20, that means you were born in 1916. I was elected in 2016, meaning what? Meaning that's the first black male in that time as an elected official in Worcester. So this generation had never seen a black elected official. So I attribute some of it to that, right? Like you're used to having to go and approach city government in a certain way. And I think over the last 5 terms, last 10 years, folks realize that I'm someone that can be reached out to and can work with them to get to the end results that they want. But there's a bit of social condition in there that we're slowly turning around, and so as far as how does it feel, it doesn't feel great, when you have folks that are misrepresenting who you are, trying to, create narratives of you to benefit themselves, when you really could be partnering together. So what I do is I try not to engage. There's been a lot of that by certain individuals, and I don't respond to it, and I try to stay focused because I truly believe that things come full circle. And if those folks at some point in time needed some assistance, I'd help them out. But it's tough, and as far as other folks go, they want to be in the loop, they want to be in the know. And they've been traditionally connected to city government in certain ways. But, Joe Petty's been in office for 30 years, 3 decades. Half of that as mayor. And so the things that I've tried to move at times are not in alliance with Joe Petty. So I can't be transparent with those folks in the black community if I want to be strategic. For example, Civilian Review Board. I fought for that. So the Civilian Review Board oversees police with subpoena powers, meaning they'd be able to subpoena folks to testify. It's something I've supported since I got on the council for a decade. For over a decade, Joe Petty has opposed it. Now, we've had 3 separate entities that have recommended to the city that we go that route. That's the Department of Justice report, the Diversity and Equity Audit of the Worcester Police Department that was pursued by myself along with Black Families Together, and the most recent Worcester Research Bureau. 3 independent folks saying, yep, we agree with the people, we agree that we should move forward. Joe Petty doesn't support that, and he hasn't. So, what folks in our community have to remember, I can't be completely open about strategy related to that because it's not in the best interest of moving it forward. But yeah, it's difficult to hear things, and I truly believe there's an old Martin Luther King saying that somewhat what it basically says is that time is a truth teller. So in time, whatever they say about you will come to truth, come to fruition. So whatever's alleged about me in 2 years, 2 months, 2 days, 2 decades, at some point will be true or not. And I'm confident that, my character and my family values and my commitment to the city will kind of rise to the top. Because I just want Worcester to win.
All right. Okay. Thank you for answering that. I want to go back to something that you said when you were talking about some of the challenges that you face, and you mentioned, they say you can see that you would be, tough or dangerous or, for white people, right? So this is my question to you. So Worcester's a very diverse city, and obviously if you win, you're not just representing one demographic, you're representing the entire community. Let's have this conversation. Yes. What do you say to those folks? It's like, yes, I might be a black man, but I represent Worcester. So you're not singling out any better. You want the whole. So I mean, I won't put words in your mouth. So how do you speak to those folks that that are that are white and fearful that if you get elected, then they will be.
Sure. Some of those folks we can't move. But I think, again, as people pay attention to the policies that I pursue, as we talked about for small business, that affects all small businesses.
It does.
Yes, we mentioned the words minority and veterans and women, but at the end of the day, they affect all businesses. When you look at the property tax exemption, it affects all business. Transparency for city council. I voted to make sure that during budget season that the councilors have the right to participate in those meetings like they do any other subcommittee. That benefits everyone. Streets, sidewalks, potholes, audits, everyone. There's a certain demographic that anytime you say the word equity, it's going to raise a red flag for them.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't make sure things were equitable. But there's so many things to equity. It's not just the color of your skin
Absolutely.
or where you're from. It's also about, access. City contracts, who has access to them? When you're talking about our public schools, are they balanced across all sides of the city? Those things impact every single person, and that's what I'm about, making sure that everyone has equal access, regardless of how you look or where you're from or what your religion is.
All right. So answer this question for me. If somebody who is the first time tuning into the show and they come on and I said, audience, do you have a question? And I say, who is Khrystin King? Who is Khrystin King? Because I'm undecided.
Yeah.
I want to go vote. And you need to tell me who you are so that I can connect.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a father, 3 girls, girl dad, ages 32, 20, and 8.
Wow.
Wow. From the islands. You know what I'm saying? That's all I got to say.
I feel like that Kevin Hart and Don Cheadle thing. Like,
okay.
Wow.
All right,
okay.
back to the subject at hand.
Okay, go on.
3 girls, one of which has gone to public schools, went through Holy Name, and then my youngest is a bilingual learner at Worcester Public Schools. And my family, I call my Liani United Nations. She's a black young girl, but my wife is Puerto Rican and Laotian. Her father's a political refugee from Laos. And then my family from Bermuda, who are undocumented for a period of time here. We are, the American family. And we're a family of social workers. My oldest does substance abuse therapy and deals with young adults. I do social work for young adults up to age 22. My wife does hospice, end of care, pediatric and adult hospice social work, end of life. And we're committed to the city. My father was a small businessman here in the city and in Central Mass. And my mom was a school teacher at the Worcester SDA school over on Airport Drive and a substance abuse counselor. So that's our family. That's who we are. And I got into really, social work because, by the time I was a sophomore in college, I had been a pallbearer in 2 of my friend's brother and cousin's funerals who died due to gun violence. There had been 3 murders by that time in my circle, and I had been a pallbearer in 2 of them. I knew I wanted to make a difference. I was a basketball player, played at the highest levels in the city, and postgraduate playing, and in college, and I've coached on all those levels. And I just wanted to make a difference. My senior thesis, again, was on the socialization of black men. I'm trying to figure out how can we lift everyone up, but how can we also identify where the gaps are? And that's so important. It's kind of in my DNA to make sure, again, everyone has access and everyone is treated fairly. That's the bedrock of who we are. And unfortunately, here in the city, what we're seeing folks who call our city council divisive. And I'm pivoting here because I call it a diverse city council. It's the most diverse city council in the history of Worcester. We had a non-binary member who was also Vietnamese. We have Muslim, Albanian, Irish, Catholic, Italian, Bermuda, and American. Puerto Rican, Dominican, and I'm sure I'm missing Lebanese, Jewish. That's diverse. And with that comes what you talked about, a diversity in constituency, representative government, diversity in values, what you see as important. So when we have these 6-5 votes where the mayor is the swing vote, a lot of that comes down to that. And we shouldn't be labeling it divisive, it's diverse. And as a leader, as mayor, I will never label that divisive. That's the bedrock of democracy. And as far as my family goes, as it relates to all of that, families have their issues, but what I've learned from my family is that at the end of the day, you have to move forward, you have to win. And if you have an issue with a particular family member or council member, it's about the end result. Are you gonna win? It's the end of the basketball game. Are you going to pass the ball to the person you don't like so they can score and win? Or are you going to hold on to it and hurt the team or hurt Worcester? And I want Worcester to win.
The bigger picture.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So I know that my producer's looking at me and he's like, we're run out of time, and I've learned to not look at our producer during the show. So I wanted to make sure that I get an opportunity for you to talk about a couple of things. So just, quickly in your role as city council and when you're running for mayor, you become mayor, education. What are your plans for education? Or maybe that's just too long a question for you.
I can do a quick one.
Okay, all right, so education.
A report just came out. It just came out that gateway cities in Boston, we are significantly underfunded. The suburban cities and towns have a better funding reality. In addition to that, we know that our schools and our school buildings need significant repair and replacement, not just our high schools, as Mayor Petty talks about, all of our schools. It will take, I can't remember how many years they say, but 25, 50 years to do all the replacements for all the schools in our gateway cities and in Boston. So what do we have to do? One of the first things I would do is reach out to those gateway cities, to their leaders, to their mayors, to their city managers, build a coalition. Because we know what the state and federal government are cutting. They're cutting everything. Budgets are getting cut. We have to come together and go to the governor, go to our state delegation. I'm proud to be endorsed by Senator Kennedy, Rep. O'Day, Rep. Keefe, because they believe that I can bring results back from Boston. We have to fight for our fair share. So facilities, and also we have to listen to our educators, our English language learners, our special educational folks, and again, facilities. We have folks in cramped spaces. We don't have all the money in the world. We have to be transparent about it, so at least people know we're working on it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So in the interest of time, I know you talked about transparency and you talked about accountability, but I really wanted to talk about just quickly, if we can, and there's just not enough time to talk deeply about it, but if you walk downtown, unhoused, mental illness, you see a lot of folks suffering from mental illness that, they are, I don't know if, and some people's they're drug, it's substance abuse. It's not only that. Yes, you can see folks, there is substance abuse, but there is mental illness. You can see that somebody choosing to do certain things publicly and unclothed and things like that. So you know that there's a challenge, right? So thoughts about how we're going to address the challenge that we're facing with mental illness and the challenge that we're facing with unhoused in Worcester.
We know that housing first works, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can't deal with any of your challenges if you don't have a stable place to be. You're not even focused on it. You have to have a place to be. So there's housing production that's occurring. We know that. Affordability, that's an issue of housing. We need to improve and expand what affordability really means. In addition to that, we know that our small businesses are being impacted by the unsheltered. We have folks defecating in the streets, urinating all over the place. They want the city to pick it up. It's a whole thing. I've called for public bathrooms. It's a matter of dignity and access for everyone. We should have them in our parks. We should have them downtown on the Common. That's a basic necessity for everyone. But we need to make sure that there's dignity. And the businesses want to see a response. Again, we're not getting the support from the state and the federal government that we have. We already have a cut in local aid based on the governor's last budget of over $1 million to $2 million here in the city. We're going to get cuts next fiscal year for the Worcester Public Schools. So we know we're going to be scrambling. What I've done is I've challenged the city manager. Our Health and Human Service Division, which deals with public health and public safety, is the lowest funded department in the city. So what I did was support unanimously by the council, because this is how I lead. I challenged the city manager. I said, I want you to enhance the capacity of HHS by hiring additional outreach workers and additional social workers. And we can do that without increasing taxes by two ways. We have a vacancy factor. So folks don't know what that means. That means we have positions that we have advertised for that we don't fill, but it's part of the budget. It's millions of dollars there that we can use. Also tightening up our overtime budget and doing a reorganization and hiring a few more positions. That's not going to solve anything, but we can only control municipal government as we fight for more. And the last thing is this. Again, we need a mayor that fights for us as a city. We have to connect. We know people are coming in from the outside in, as well as from the inside, and we have to advocate for more funding, because the other gateway cities are having the same thing. If you live in East Brookfield or Spencer or Leicester or Millbury, you might be on someone's couch or in their basement for a little while in these conditions, or if you can't afford things, you're going to end up in Worcester. There's shelters, there's transportation, there's services, there's food. So that's what's happening in Fitchburg, Leominster, Lowell, Brockton, etc., Cambridge, Worcester. And so we need more funding to support that. Well, we're going to have to go and find it elsewhere, because we don't have it within our budget. We have to build that coalition with our other gateway cities.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, and I really wanted to dive in a little more because November 1st, the whole SNAP benefit things, what's happening on the federal level, but we are out of time, and I really wanted to focus on the local election because I think it's important that we vote. And as you mentioned earlier, there's so many things that are impacted, and I remember having a conversation with you. I don't know if you remember, and I said to you, you asked me a question, and I jokingly said, I'm not political, and you're like, everything is politics. Everyone is political. And then I was just trying to all right, leave me alone, Khrystin. And, but it reminded me that every single political decision impacts our lives. So whether you vote, it matters. Whether you vote or not, the policies that are in place, the elected officials that are in place makes a decision that impacts your life. So wouldn't you rather vote to make sure that your voice is being heard? So I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to give your plug for your commercial, to tell folks to go out and vote for you, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Sure. I'm asking you to vote for mayor and councilor at large on or before November 4th. I can be followed at King for Worcester on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And, I'm asking that you participate in local government when I become mayor, because we can do this together, and we can make sure that we're using what resources we have to move things forward together.
All right. Thank you so much. So you guys heard it. Khrystin King is running for mayor of the great city of Worcester. My name is Positively Suzanne. I was happy to facilitate this conversation to give you guys some more information. Get out and vote. Your vote matters. I know sometimes we feel like no matter what we do, it doesn't count, but it does count. So go out and vote between now and November 4th. And I will see you next Wednesday for a brand new season of Sipping Tea with Suzanne.